Want to get an edge on other property buyers in Brisbane? Well, you've come to the right video. Today, we've got one of the best property agents in Brisbane on. He helps hundreds of people every year. He's also known as one of the best AFL players ever, the Brownlow medalist. If you have no idea what the hell that is, it's the best and fairest medal for the entire AFL league, which is about 700 players. Is that right? Was that right for that year, Jace?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many players, because they're on lists. Not everyone plays, but yeah, 2001. There's probably two less teams, but we played two less games than they do now. They play 24 instead of 22 rounds. But yeah, no, that is pretty much spot on. I mean, there's been like 12 or 13,000 players in the history of the VFL AFL, so there's not that many when you think about it.
Yeah. But I think for if anyone wants to give you a hard time, you've been best and fairest that are about 700 or 800 people, like
Yeah.
by an external committee. It's pretty good.
Well, that's the umpires, but you're also like you're the best player in the whole of the universe because there's no for that year, which is pretty cool. There's no other country that plays, so you might as well say it was the best in the world because I was the best in the world.
Best in the solar system.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, all the planets. So that's how good I was. It's better than anything in the universe,
Yeah, it's always good. But one thing's for sure. I'm close by. You're based in Ascot, and it's definitely I definitely I hear good things about what you're doing in a local area. So yeah, can you share a bit about your background and what you're passionate about?
Yeah, well, it's sort of funny because real estate has come in the last 3 years. I'm 46 now, but, I
Yeah.
played 16 years in the AFL. Then I went out of the AFL, did media for a few years. So I had, columns and on TV and radio.
Yeah,
And
nice.
then I did foreign exchange. And then I moved to Albury out of Melbourne where I finished my career.
Yep.
Did foreign exchange, which turned into augmented reality as well, which is sort of the same companies. And then eventually discovered that we could make our own crypto called Zoocoins, which of course is huge, and then we can use it at merchants with Zoocaz, which is Zari. So the AR and the crypto sort of worked in hand. And then a few years ago, I had enough of living in Albury, so I said to my girls, "I'm out. I'm going to go back home to Brisbane, where I'm from." And then I got my full license in real estate, got a job at Ray White. I came back up here, worked sort of actually just next door, and then after 4 months, I got the offer to come out on my own with another company up the coast called Blue Moon, which is awesome. And that was it. So I've been out my own for 3 years, and there's sort of 2.5 full-time sales staff. And then we've got a full-time rental property manager. We have about 100 rentals. So we're growing. Every year we're growing, and every year you sell more and every year you get more rentals. So it's slowly but surely, but it could take, it took 7 years to win a Brownlow. So it's going to take about that long to really get your footing in an area that is quite tough here around these 5 suburbs of Ascot. You've got a lot of premium brands here who've been here for a long time. So it's always good competition.
Yeah, they say it takes about 5 years to establish a brand, and yeah, if you go for a drive down a racecourse road, you're hard to miss.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite noodle shops across the road there, Taro's. Then it's hard to miss you doing a handstand on the front of that building.
Yeah. Well, I'm here, but then you've got, you've got like next door, there's a real estate agent, R&W, and then you just keep going premium. And then you've got Bray White and AMUR, and then Bell estate agents, then place down the road. So she's pretty competitive. It's probably, 50 to 100 agents just in this street. So it's a good challenge to eat into their sort of their area, but we're doing a good job so far.
Yeah, so you're focusing on the Ascot area or inner north, what are you saying now?
The 5 suburbs, like I've sold everywhere, and I'll continue to sell everywhere because you can't just be in these 5 suburbs and you'll never sell anything because it takes a while. Sometimes you get listings here. Eventually, they all start coming in this area as you get a better name and you start to sell for other people, and it's really just your network. Like once they're happy with you, then they say, well, use AKER instead of these guys, and that's how I usually roll. So that takes time. But yeah, the 5 suburbs here, you've got obviously Ascot, Hamilton, Clayfield. You pretty much go through those 3 or 4 Hendra. You're in those areas. They're good areas. So yeah, we'll sooner or later we'll be selling all our properties in this sort of 2 kilometre radius. But we just keep building until that happens.
Yeah, nice. So, like, let's say a buyer comes to you and wants to buy a property, do do you help them out? Like,
Yeah,
what do
well,
you do with them?
well, when you want to buy a
Mm.
property, the simplest questions are, well, what's your budget and what do you need?
Mm.
And what area do you want to be in? Those three sort of questions that'll answer everything you need to know. It's not hard if it's generally with quite busy people, doctors and solicitors and lawyers, they really don't have a lot of time and they don't have a lot of patience to go and find something. So they're generally your buyers
Yeah.
that need help. There's some that are friends or family members or just your network where they're just young and they want to get in and they want to know what can I get, but also how to structure a deal that they can sort of get to the front of the line. And there are ways. Everyone just thinks that it's price that wins you the day, but that's not always the case. Price is very important, and
Yeah.
it is often the overriding factor. But people forget how good some conditions are, where you can actually get a property 5, 10, 15 grand less, but you've got better conditions, which of course sellers who want to sell would like all contracts, a bit like an auction, unconditional and 30 days or whatever your time period is, and a good deposit. And that's really how you get to the front of the line.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah. So why property? Like, why did you see property as such like a good place to go? So
Yeah, property's one of those things. My mum, I had a single mum, and
yeah.
so we were renting, and then she just took the plunge. She bought a house. Wasn't much of a house, but typical back then. I think it cost about $27,000 in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gordon Park back in the sort of it's probably late 80s. Anyway, we had that for many years, and then we
Yeah,
sold
well.
that. I think she sold it for 47 grand or something. So nearly doubled the money, and then we went out to Wavell Heights, and we bought something a little bit more expensive with a pool and a few other things, which was really cool. So I
Mm.
suppose my mum always taught me, look, it's always the land, get something with land. I think the first house I bought, or the second house I bought, was 1,000 square meter block in Bulimba. I think I bought it for 805,000. I sold it a few years later for 1.8. So I was like, oh yeah, what a genius! I just made $1 million. But
Yeah.
that same house today is worth 4.5 million. So you know,
Yeah, yeah. I think you brought that up
big
before.
blocks, good houses, good suburbs. Long term. I mean, they're the things we all want. And if you can get them, you're never going to lose.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. That's really good. So, what's one of the most significant challenges that you've had to deal with over the last few years, and like how did you overcome it?
Well, I certainly made some errors. I think the hardest things is when a couple of times I've had property sell,
Mm.
like under
Yep.
contract, just ready to go, just go and sign, and then they say,
Yep.
"Oh, no, we don't want to sell now." They were very frustrating. I could have done that a lot better. I could have done a deal where they just rented it back for a bit, give themselves some time to go and find another place. That's where I sort of let myself down there. Most of the times, like you want to sell for any buyer, price always
Yep.
dictates everything. And the market tells you, you get 3 or 4 offers that are in the same, bandwidth, and that's what the market expects. They do their research, and when sellers have unrealistic expectations, that's always, you get the listing. Like I've got one at the moment that's worth, probably 930 to maybe $1 million max, and she won't take any offers less than 1.5 million. And you're like,
Yeah.
it's going to take you 20 years to get anywhere near that figure. Your place is not rezoned. It's not the right DA. It's got issues. There's junk everywhere. Like, you just wonder where these people are thinking. It makes it pretty much impossible. No matter how good an agent you are, you just can't sell at that price. The husband wants 2 million. It's like the record is 1.3 million for your area for the same size block with a hell of a better house.
Yeah.
So, they're always the hardest people to deal with. There's certainly the people in the industry mostly are pretty good, but you get these people, they're just shockers. They're demanding, they want this, they want updates every day, like it, and then their expectations are unrealistic. And when you get that all in the mix, divorces are tricky because you've got husband and wives, that you've got to convince both of them. And so, yeah, it's really the people that can be your greatest, adversary, or, they get on your side, they're wonderful. But when they're when they're like that, that make the industry really difficult.
Yeah. So I guess it's about managing expectations, you know.
And
So
I lose listings because I'll say, your house is worth this. No, full well that's what it's worth, and that's what the market will expect.
yeah.
Another agent comes in and says, well, it's worth $200,000 more. They get the listing, and of course, they spend the next 3 months getting the price down that 200,000 that I said it'd be worth, and eventually selling the same price I said you will get straight away if you're realistic. And yeah, that's always frustrating when you get beaten out by agents that are knowingly lying to you just so they can get your listing and then talk you down on price. That happens all the time.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's your reputation on the line, isn't it? And if you can show good customer service, and they can, after they've been overpromised by someone, they're more likely to refer you, I guess.
Yeah.
Refer someone else to you. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we had this one guy. He had a deal on the table from the people who were renting. It went on for 4 months. We're trying to get the listing. I said, look, the offer was good at 1.7. It was a good deal, but
Yeah.
I think there's more out there. Anyway, eventually they kept delaying the particular deal, kept needing longer for finance. And we said, look, this is a waste of time. Signed them up, put it on the market, and I think we had 15 offers. I think we sold it initially for 2.3 million. So there's 500 grand he would have left on the table had he taken that deal, and that's the difference between a good property that's sellable plus, I would say, a good agent doing a deal for you. In the end, that particular deal fell over, and then the second best people didn't care about some of the issues that the other buyer had. And it was actually a nightmare because there's a bunch of caveats on the property. The tenants think that they own it and they don't. They back pay they were 30 grand in arrears for rent. They had
Yeah.
12 grand of water bills that they didn't pay. So it was really tough. Plus, the lease was run by the owner, so the owner doesn't know all the rules, and to get them out, like there's a bunch of processes to, when they're sort of in arrears, and then you have to evict them, and then when they don't, because they still haven't moved out, you have to send it to QCAT. So there's all these things. I had to help the buyer to get ready for settlement which is next Monday. So yeah, that could be tricky, but that just shows you, you need the right people who know what they're doing. And, for him, it was a good thing. It's the only way. We're probably arguably one of the few agents that could have got it sold, not just the price, but all the other stuff. It's just very unusual. It's not a simple deal. It's not just, yep, that's settlement, it's unconditional, and you sell it and it settles. It's so much more than that. And that's what people don't necessarily see when they see real estate agents and what we get up to, but there's this whole lot of stuff that can go on that can, ruin deals. So we worked really hard to get that one over the line.
Yeah. Wow. So so it's good to see that you are working with like buyers and sellers. And yeah, so it really means it really means you're like in it for the long game. And so yeah, which is really why I wanted you to come on and have a chat with us. So are you still doing auctions?
Yeah, I'm an auctioneer.
You're an auctioneer, yeah.
The auctions are interesting because you get locked out from all the big companies because they use their own. Like Bray White has their own guy. He's very experienced, Phil Parker, and does a very good job. Great guy to learn off. Other companies just use their in-house guys. So I'll just do it for other independent agents here and there. But sometimes I'll do my own auctions. It just depends on what's going on. But yeah, I don't need. It's not paying for my kids to go to school or anything. It just, whenever you need it, I'm happy to do it. And with a full license, you do everything. You do commercial, you do auctioneering, you do normal resi sales, you can do retail. So there's lots of things that you can do as a principal. But auctions, yeah, when we do them. But that, if we do 5 a year, it's okay. But we generally do about 10 to 15 a year. It's not that many, maybe once a month.
Yeah. So what would you tell say like a new home buyer or investor about like going to an auction to get an upper hand? Or
yeah, well, there's two parts of that. Yeah, there's two parts. You get to try and get a seller to go to auction. You basically explain to them, look, going to auction is better for sellers generally because the conditions under auction conditions are better. There's no cooling off, so you can't back out of a deal.
Yeah.
It's 5% deposit and 30 days settlement. So generally, if you say to people, listen, there's a 71% chance that on this date in 1 month, we all know we're going to have an auction and we will sell.
Yeah.
If you know that date, and if it doesn't sell, 98% of them sell in the next 2 or 3 days. It's not a bad deal. And the reason you go down that route is you want the competition, you want the best competition. The best competition and the hardest competition to beat is someone who is always unconditional. So when you've got really no conditions, building a pest is already done, finance is sorted, then you're just down to price, and that's pretty cool. But if you're going into an auction, I've helped probably more people with the auction process. So a mate of mine in Melbourne I went to school with, I helped him with an auction. I said, he sort of put in an offer and they said, no, we'll take it to auction. I said, I think the buyers the sellers are getting a deal that's just a little bit higher than yours at the moment. The reserve will be around that. And I said, I guarantee that the other buyers are probably nearly maxed out and they won't go any higher in the auction. And sure enough, just as I predicted, they got to the next bid and then it went over just over reserve and they were sitting there with their very first property. And that was them understanding what the auctioneer and the seller and the other buyers were probably going to do. And in the end, he had the advantage because we were able to, because I do auctions all the time, I see auctions, you know how they operate. And that meant that he got his property. And so little things like that do help. If you ever buy at auction, it just comes down to your position. Like if you've got the firepower to be unconditional or you've got your finance sorted and you don't care about building a pest, then they're good processes to go through. And I think if you can, you will, the best buyers are at auctions, but if not, then it comes down to your conditions. And that's always where you miss out on deals, is these conditions where you want building a pest that can be fine. There's usually not a lot of drama, but if there is, you want to know about it anyway. But then it's the finance, because remember, out of COVID, it was taking enormous amounts of time to get everything sorted for finance. So people were really struggling to get, 30 or 45 or even 60 days. They were struggling to get finance sorted after putting offers in. So that's all changed now. It's a bit better, but it's still, the paperwork you got to do just to get approval or a borrowing capacity it's just a nightmare.
Yeah. Do you see that right now with the interest rates? They've gone up a bit. So do you find that right now, like with your people you're dealing with finance, like is that
not a lot, not a lot at the moment, because what's happened is everyone's been through that, gone and done all the work with the banks and got loans or got loan capacity, pre-approval, and you need that. Most people you talk to have already got pre-approval.
Yeah.
The odd one here and there, like you basically say, well, don't talk to me until you get pre-approval. You know how much you can spend, because it's a waste of time. What's also happening is because stock is so tight, there's not a lot of stock around for lots of reasons. Not everyone's willing to sell at the moment. So that puts a pressure on the market. There's a lot of renters and not a lot of rentals, which means that pushes people to start to think, I really don't want to spend $500, $600, $700 a week. I'm just going to go and buy. So they've saved up, they're ready to go. And that's another pressure that comes into the market. The rental side is still pretty hot, and it's not going to slow down because they keep bringing in immigrants. You keep getting students that come from overseas. You've got a whole lot of pressures and a lot of pricing of the market makes it really difficult. So at the moment, we're seeing with no stock, they're all selling and for good deals where most of the buyers are going to miss out. However, that should change just naturally, because even though we're probably nearly maxed out with the interest rates, you're actually getting to a point where people are coming off their, very low fixed locked in interest rates of 2 point whatever, and all of a sudden it's jumping to excuse me, 5, 6, 7%. That 5% for a lot of people is really going to pretty much hurt too much, where they probably have to either go and refinance or they'll have to sell. And so I expect coming in, like it's August now, but come before Christmas, you'll start to see probably more stock on the market, and the prices will not be any worse or any better, but you will have more stock to buy, which gives you more of a chance to buy something because you haven't got 10 people looking at that property, all of a sudden you're competing against one or two other people.
Yeah, I've definitely seen more like a few more investors sell out in some of the outer suburbs that I've been looking at, like Red Bank Plains and that sort of thing, with where people have invested, they've bought a lot of investment properties, yeah. So hopefully that keeps going for those
You
people
see,
looking for somewhere to live.
yeah, I think with those properties too, I mean, if you do the sums, you sort of go, well, I've just made 150, 200 grand on my rental or
Mm.
my investment property. To get that back takes a lot of years just in the rent. So we've probably seen that in the last 3 years. A lot of people, once we had that huge spike in Brisbane, which happens every sort of 14 to 18 years anyway, then they were like, well, I'll sell. And it's good and bad because you get owner occupiers, which is great. You lose your rentals, but then you also get investors who are happy to buy other stuff. But the government have been, both here in Queensland and Victoria have been talking
Yeah.
about rent freezes. They've changed the rules, so you can only sort of put up your rental price once a year, which is good, but it can also be big jumps for renters, particularly because now that $500 a week is now going to get $650, and once your lease is up, if you don't sort of pay it or want to pay it, then you're going to have to move, and that causes all kinds of stress and pressure
Oh
on
yeah, it's
owners.
a
And
whole psychological thing for a renter. We definitely learned that in business. If you don't incrementally put your price up every like 6 months or so, it's just a shock for your
yeah,
customer.
I
So
think the other good thing, like when people say, what should I invest in? Like there's a couple of absolute crackers in the resi market that no one ever touches that are just brilliant. So 1-bedroom units, see, no one wants them, but they are the best yield of any product in the market in residential, on the residential side. So what you can do is you can fully furnish one, doesn't cost you a lot of money, and you generally do a deal with either myself or you do it with the manager on site, and then he'll charge you 14 to 20%, which is double on what you get just on the normal resi stuff. But the key is you can then rent it out per day, $150, and then the cleaning that they pay for the cleaning, all of a sudden you go from making $450, $500 a week max to making $1,200 a week, and no one goes near them. And let me tell you, if you can get a 1-bedroom short term stay, very similar to Airbnb, it's the same really, then you make you make 50 grand a year on something you spent $450 is unheard of. You struggle to do that with a $1 million property. So that's one thing to remember. And if you're looking around for investment, you've got under 500 grand, then they're the best.
is it managed by the internal company, by that buildings?
Yeah, so most buildings they'll have a breakdown of, you'll have owner occupiers, then you'll have renters, long-term renters, then you'll have short-term stays. And if you find there's a lot of buildings around that do that, so you just do a deal with the manager on site. He does everything for you. You just collect the money. He does the keys. The new people come in and out, get the cleaners organized. It's a big job, but that's why they sort of, because it happens so much more. Every week you could have 7 different people in your unit, but they're all paying and they all need it to be clean for the next one, and that's their job. And so they're just great options. Fantastic yield.
Yeah, well, I might come and see you about that. Hey,
and they're cheap to do. And we just did, in the last 12 months, we've done 4 just down the road here at Hamilton, and they were all bank repossessions or forced sales, which is staggering to think that people couldn't afford the repayments, which has to be 6 months in arrears for the bank to say, nah, that's it, we are selling it. Then they contact agents like me or Jim down the road here. I'll do the auction for Jim and Jim will sell it. And banks are it's crazy good. So, and one of them.
Portside's a good spot too. It's coming around now. It's not just an old shipping facility now. It's looking pretty good.
Oh, it's really good. And there was one that was huge for a 1-bedder, really big. I think it sold for in the 4s, but magic. And then you just do the deal, and they're making even more money now. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys that try and buy that one, they think they're going to get it cheap because bank repossession or full sale, which is, it actually never happens. You just get a lot of interest, and the other thing is a lot of parents are trying to help their kids get in there. One bedders are good because they're young, and that's a good place to start. So you're really up only against them because they're the only ones that want them. Yet if you're smart and you're an investor, they are just great for cash flow. Don't worry about not going to get the capital gain returns you will on anything with a land component, but you are certainly going to be miles in front if you go down the short stay route.
Yeah, plus I get the impression that a lot of Australians still want the the backyard dream, but with like you're saying before, like properties in the 70s were like 20,000-30,000, and people that was almost a year's wage for a lot of people, like, or 2 years they could almost save up for a house. But now it's exponentially more. So it's you just need to find that starting spot, and if it's in an urban area, I think it can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I think the next big thing outside of, like, if you can, the guys that do really well in real estate, they get their house. It's usually a wonderful house. It's got heaps of land content. They pay that off. They might go down the short term leasing on the one bedroom because they're cheap. But the next best in real estate is always commercial, and most people don't understand how good commercial is, because commercial you buy it, you don't get all this sort of capital rise necessarily like you do with resi, but you get regular returns. But every year they have this beautiful thing called CPI, and every year it goes up 2 or 3%. And the deals that get done, like they're usually 5 years plus 5 years or 4 and 4, they're locked into that. And then every year, it goes up 3%. And so you can't just do that with resi. You can't do that with sort of other stuff that we do day to day. But the commercial, you can do that every day of the week, and that's the next option. So you see people that have a bit in resi, well, a lot in resi, and then they have a good bit in commercial, 1, 2, 3 sites, and you are just laughing. The next 15 years, you think about 3% a year for 15 years. It might not have doubled in price, but you've just made yourself an extra. It could be anything. It could be 50 grand a year. It could be 100 grand a year. It just depends on what kind of site you got.
Yeah. All right. Well, we better wrap it up soon. But I'll ask you one more question. So, is there a property story that goes around in your head? Like, you've been at it a few years. Is there something like? Is there a story that you that really really floats your boat, really keeps you going when when you might be having a tough day?
Yeah, well, we generally we can go months. Like the last 6 months, we've had lots of work to get the listings, and now this back half of the year is got 12 listings and very busy. But people forget that for us in the industry, we go for long periods, 3, 4, 5, 6 months sometimes, where we don't make a lot of money outside the rent roll, etc. So But then we've got a budget for all of that. So I think from us in the real estate side, it's just being persistent enough to keep it will change, and it is feast and it is famine, and it just goes like that. So we're setting up probably this back half of the year to not have really any drop off as far as like the wages coming in, or the amount of money you make just oscillates a bit, but the actual running of the business certainly won't have this problem where you have to tip in your own money just to keep it afloat. It's
what about one that you one that they came to you without saying their names, like run us through that client story, a good one.
A good one, yeah. I think the good one, like it'll settle next Monday, but that one we did for one of the clients we had, where we worked on it for 4 months, and it was really pleasing that we suspected there was a lot more in the market. We're about to do hopefully another deal very similar, where developers will come in and pay premium for something that's about to be rezoned. That particular one is just a gold mine sitting there, and I don't think he understood that. So to help him through that, but with all the other stuff going on in the background, from caveats to tenants that aren't behaving to just getting a deal done, it's pretty rewarding. That'll be a payday. No matter, it's a good sized payday too, but it's one that you feel great about because you really work for it. It wasn't an easy sell.
Yeah, well, I mean, with property, you have the opportunity to change people's lives. In Australia, there's people put a lot into property. Like a lot of people's portfolios aren't very diverse. It's a lot of it's property, so they hang their heart on your actions, and you know,
It's big. Yeah, it's the
it's
biggest
big.
biggest
So
asset we have, and it's very emotional too for a lot of people. So you just need to work around that. For us, it's a house. It's worth this. We need to find a buyer who's going to pay that. We want to get you the price you'd like, but that figure is not that easy. And there was only a small window where that was happening. We had properties that were selling in 5 days and for ridiculous money, but that was never going to last. And
yeah,
now it's back to normal.
yeah. So yeah, where can people? How can people find you, Jace?
Oh, well, as long as you can spell my name, you'll find me. Here at Ascot, it's not hard to find. My number will be on there, my work phone. So if you need any help, just let us know, either to buy something or just to buy one of our lovely pieces of stock we have. There's so much to it. You got commercial side, one bedroom apartment. Sometimes you just need the other thing that I probably should have mentioned, it is
Yeah.
key to have a relationship with someone that you get on well with in the industry, because they will tip you off. If you're nice to them, they'll say, look, this is coming up, it's off market now, you could get it for this, we could probably do a deal now without spending a lot of money on marketing. And it's
Oh
important to have
yeah.
a relationship with not only just myself, but other real estate agents in your area, because when you go into your search engines, which you should always have what your needs are, and you get alerts, and that'll give you the chance to get new stock that comes on, as it does every week, that might suit you. And so if you get a good relationship with a couple of real estate agents, you've got the alerts from all the REA and domain stuff.
Mm.
You give yourself a chance to find what you really want for a reasonable price, and they're key things to do moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Yeah, it's all about relationships, and a lot of people only have weekends to do
Mm,
this. And so if you find a few good agents that speak your language, and you work with them, like you should really yeah dig down there, and they'll give you a tip off for a good for
absolutely.
a,
Yeah, it's worth your while
for a
just
good
to
property.
get to know them. They all think real estate agents are, trustworthy and dodgy, but
Mm,
it's not the case. You need to find someone you can trust that will help you out to get you what you
mm.
need, because, you only buy and sell it on average every 7 years. So you don't need them a lot, but you will need them. You make a good choice, and that 7 years comes pretty quick. And all of a sudden, that right decision's helped you get to the next one and the next one. And so eventually, you downsize and you're sitting on a pile of gold.
Yeah, so you're working in your own business. Are you the do you have agents underneath you at the moment?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I've got one full time agent,
Yep.
and then another who's coming on, but he's doing a little bit part time. And then I have
Yeah,
another one
great.
who's really part time, but yeah. So we only pay the wage at the moment of one, but we have a property manager as well, as I mentioned, for the 100 properties. So we're always looking to buy some more rent rolls, which we're going through now. So
Yeah, but it's all like it, the benefit of working with you is that now where your business is at the moment, it's growing fast, but they'll be able to get your time, and build a relationship with you, so they can get those properties. If you're working with an agent that is part of a bigger group, chances are that they're going sale to sale. They don't care about their brand name too much. And like I was saying earlier, you just your goal here is to establish that brand, and so you're in it for the long haul. So that's really a point of difference that a lot of people are going to overlook when they just want that property. So, but if you have someone like if you have an agent out there that's actually on your side, and you can talk to them face to face, and they're in it for the long game. I think that's definitely something not to overlook.
I just think, yeah, those outside of the bigger brands, if you can find someone who's a smaller operator, you'll find their service is always better, because they don't get the listings that the bigger boys get, but they have the time to really help, and they are, you know, people respond to that, and people like that. So there's individual operators too around here that are exceptionally good. So you don't really miss out, but then you don't get treated like just another number coming in the system like you do at some of the bigger joints. And I've been there and I see how they operate, and there's a lot of bad stories around with certain companies. So yeah, you always give the little guy a go, because you probably find he's probably a little bit more powerful than you think.
Thanks for being on today, Jason. Really appreciate your time.
No
And
problem.
yeah, make sure you check out the links below, and you'll see all the magic Jason's doing.
Yeah, and the
But
socials as well. Yeah, you can see a lot of stuff on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, so you won't miss out.
nice.